Today we're doing some brakes on a 2000 Honda Accord, the EX trim model. Though we're just doing the brakes, so hopefully the trim won't matter. Sometimes the rotors can be different sizes, so we're gonna check them and see. But right now we're just gonna break open the lug nuts, lift up the car, and pull the wheel off, see what we're working with. Alright, went ahead, stuck the wheel under there, for safety purposes. Wheels are cheaper than lives, so what we're looking at here is we got our rotors, and we're looking at our pads to see if we need to change them. And if we are changing them, we're going to be ordering pads and rotors. This is a rear, so we have our emergency brake attached as well. It's currently on. We're going to have to turn it off in order to be able to access this caliper. So just be careful with that. If you've already raised it with the e-brake on, you might see some shifting. Make sure nobody's underneath it. Before I forget, the lug nuts were 19 mil. These slides are 12, and then to get the whole caliper off back here are 14. So we're going to zip these two out and check our pads that way. You might be able to see in here, but I know it's hard for me to get a clear and accurate picture of what's going on, so you probably can't see either. But there's our pads with our rotor. And we're going to check how slippy these are too. That's why I want to pull it off, to see if we need to order some new rings and or pins and bushings. Alright, now that I got my two caliper bolts out right here, go ahead and rock this off. And if it's a little stuck, you can take a rubber hammer and just tap on it lightly while holding the disc brake. Got to move a little bit, and so I should be able to pull this off no problem. Alright, so now that the caliper's off, you can see this rotor just fell off. On these Hondas, there's some screws that would go in here that goes into your drum. I believe they're normally Phillips, so you can get those out, but these weren't installed, so no need. And the rotor looks pretty heated. As you can see, it's got pock marks in there, so that's an indication that it's overheated. But overall, this side, the outer, looks fantastic. But yeah, the inside is the one that definitely doesn't look the best. The pads themselves actually don't look that bad. We could pull them out to look, but we're going to need to replace the rotor anyways, so we'll get some new pads while we're at it. Probably something to have more of an aversion to all this rust. I used some PB Blaster for these bolts here. They weren't very fun to take off. As well, if you have grease Zerk fittings on your bushings, now's a good time to do that while you're in here. And then to replace those, you would have to replace these, take these out, right? These actually still slide. I'm not sure if you can see that, but it's sliding just with one hand, so they're actually pretty loose. Not bad. When I go ahead and do the full brakes, I'll probably repack those with grease and get some new bushings, but the pins should still be good. Let's go ahead and throw this all back together. Same thing in reverse. Put the rotor back on the caliper in between the pads. If you wanted to do just the pads on this thing, you wouldn't have to take the caliper off, but I wanted to inspect the full rotor while it was out. But you can just take the slide pins out, pull your pads out, and then put new pads on without even having to mess with these bolts here. Alright, went ahead, got it all buttoned back up, hand tightened with a ratchet, because I live in a rust belt, so it's not going anywhere anyways. That's the long and skinny of it. If you're going to replace the pads to push the piston in, these shouldn't be the screw type pistons, so you can just use a normal C-clamp, and that should work just fine. Just use an old brake pad to push it in, and then put on your new ones when you're ready to load it all up. And wear gloves. When you're working with stuff you're going to be reusing, I still like to use gloves, because you still got to keep it relatively clean. And I'm going to probably hit this with some brake clean before we put the wheel back on as well, just to make sure it's nice and clean. Alright, got our tire back on, got it oomphed on a little bit, and then we're going to go ahead and torque each lug nut, star pattern, remember. And I believe on these it's 80 to 90 foot-pounds. But, do whatever UGGs you want. Alright, we're on to the front here. You can see these rotors are very grooved. So much so where it's not even technically making contact with a lot of this right now. And so, but still the outer pad, there's still plenty of meat on this outer pad here. But again, it's hard to see with the other pad. You can't really see in this one. It's got this clip here. And still looks like there's some movement on these. Not a lot, but I mean, what do you expect? It's still on the caliper. So we're going to head pop this off, check the other pads again, and see what we're looking with. But it looks like we're going to need to do a whole set all the way around. Decided to take the pins out of the front caliper here so you can see it. Plus the front's 14 on the slide pins, and then these are 19 for the actual caliper. I have seen on some of these studs can be 20 as well, so just be aware that it could be possibly wrong size. But we're gonna take a look, see. We got the bolts down here, they got anti-seize on them, so that's why they're nice and away from everything I'm doing. And let's take a look at these pads. They got plenty of meat on them actually, and they're pretty even still too. So overall not bad. It's mainly the rotors that are shot, which kind of stinks. So we'll button this back up and we're going to go order our parts, and this is exactly what we do to replace them. You just take the old ones off and be sure to clean all the contacts and stuff for well, brake stuff. If you have any questions, leave it in the comments, I'll answer it, but otherwise you just use the kits they come with, you know, and make sure to take pictures if you don't know exactly what you're doing, because at least then you can put it back to the way it was. Alright, we just buttoned that all back up. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to check the brake fluid reservoir. Make sure if we really need to top it up now, we can. That way we don't run into any air in the lines when we go and replace the pads and rotors later. And just making sure that we don't overflow it now and when we're pressing in those calipers. Alright, we had to go ahead and clean the brake reservoir to be able to check it because it was so dirty. You can see from over here it was all that color. You couldn't even read min and max, but we're clearly below the minimum line. I'm going to put it just to the bottom of these arrows since we are going to be doing the brakes soon, and it'll hopefully rise up and then I'll top it off then. But that's the end of our brake job tonight. Thanks for watching. Leave a like if this is even mildly entertaining or helpful. Bye!